Lexington police are searching for a shooter after a man is found lying on the ground with life-threatening injuries outside of an apartment complex.
Planning to fly this Christmas? Well, you might want to recheck your carry-on for any of these items that could cause big problems with TSA.
And we are talking about another cold one and the potential at least for a few flakes heading into the weekend. I'll have the very latest forecast coming up for you.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at Noon.
Good afternoon from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Barbara Bailey. Police are investigating a shooting in Lexington.
It happened about 9:30 this morning outside an apartment complex on Augusta Court off the Eastland Parkway.
When officers arrived, they found a man who had been shot lying on the ground. WKYT's Victor Puente is here with the latest on the search for a suspect.
And that is our top story at noon. Victor?
The parking lot of this apartment complex has been shut down while police search for evidence. They tell us right now they don't have much information about what led to this shooting. It happened around 9:30. Police say when they arrived, they found a man who'd been shot lying near apartment 1776. A witness tells me he saw firefighters working to treat him. Police say those injuries were life-threatening. They weren't sure how many times he'd been shot, but that witness told me he heard at least 4 gunshots. Police say they're having trouble finding witnesses who know the man or how the shooting happened. They're hoping someone will contact them. The man I spoke to didn't want his face shown, but he said that victim didn't appear responsive.
When I walked outside, the gentleman, fireman, was over top doing CPR over top of him. When I came out, and that's pretty much all I know, is I saw a gentleman on the ground.
Police say one other issue they have is they don't know if that man lived in this apartment complex or if he was here visiting someone. In Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Victor, thank you. And detectives tell us they are going door to door in that complex there, those apartments right now, and looking for witnesses.
It's a disturbing case in Lexington involving a Time Warner cable employee. Police say Bradley Brooks exposed himself to a customer's 7-year-old daughter in their home. WKYT's Mark Barber is outside the Fayette County Court complex now with more on the charges he faces.
I spoke with Bradley Brooks' mother, and while she doesn't want to go on camera, she says her son has worked for Time Warner Cable for 2 to 3 years. According to an arrest warrant, Brooks exposed himself to a 7-year-old girl when he was working in her home back in July. We're told it happened after a mother asked her daughter to take a cable router to Brooks while he was in their basement. The mother says when the girl came out of the basement, something had changed. She wasn't acting like herself. According to an arrest warrant, during a forensic interview, the child said Brooks exposed himself to her and then touched himself inappropriately. We spoke with Brooks' attorney about the case. He believes the evidence will show that the 32-year-old is innocent. Brooks' mother tells us after the alleged abuse was reported, Time Warner Cable didn't fire him because there were serious doubts about the story. Instead, she says the cable company had him in counseling for depression. At this time, we are still waiting to hear back from Time Warner Cable. We have a call in asking about their screening process for employees who make house calls, and we're also trying to figure out which neighborhoods Brooks visited. Police say the 32-year-old was arrested yesterday morning after he was involved in a crash near Midland and East 2nd Street. Investigators say he was under the influence of drugs during the crash. His mother tells us he was taking prescription medication for his depression. The 32-year-old will be arraigned on 1 count of first-degree sexual abuse at 1 o'clock this afternoon. His attorney tells us he will enter a not guilty plea. In Lexington, Mark Barber, WKYT.
Now, Brooks is also charged with operating a vehicle without a motor license in connection to yesterday's crash. A man accused of attacking several people in northern Kentucky is behind bars this midday. The Boone County Sheriff's Office arrested Eric Unthank near his home. Police say a woman was found covered in blood and screaming for help. She flagged down a bus driver and told him a man was inside trying to kill her and several children with special needs in her care.
A man accused of causing the death of his infant son will learn his fate this afternoon. Kaz Husaga was charged with murder in the death of his 1-month-old son last year. Lexington police say he slammed the baby's head against a counter. Court workers tell us he admitted to second-degree manslaughter. Prosecutors are recommending a 6-year prison sentence. His hearing is set for 1 o'clock this afternoon. Police say a shooting last week has now led them to a drug bust in Lexington. 2 men man broke into a home on Manhattan Drive and shot the victim, Ben Sharp, in the leg. He was taken to the hospital and then to jail on drug charges. Police now say they found 8 pot plants and other drug paraphernalia at that home within the reach of a toddler who was living there. Now 3 more people have been arrested in connection with those drugs. Jasmine Gregory, James Kendrick, and Donson Cook are charged with marijuana cultivation, wanton endangerment, and drug paraphernalia. They'll all be facing a judge on those charges in less than an hour.
A Central Kentucky man is facing arson and burglary charges after police say he was rejected by a woman on Facebook. A Franklin County grand jury indicted James Graham. Police say he broke into the woman's home last month and set it on fire. Although he's been indicted, Graham has not yet been arrested. It's another cold day here in the Bluegrass, and that trend is expected to continue through the weekend, along with some snow chances in the forecast. WKYT meteorologist Jim Caldwell is live at our First Alert Weather Center now with the look ahead. Jim?
Yeah, we're going to be tracking more of that white stuff here in the next few days. Not quite as much as we were looking at earlier on this week. So it's trending a little bit better for your last big shopping weekend before we go into Christmas. There you see what it looks like outside here in Lexington. Plenty of cloud cover hanging out with us. And we are sitting at temperatures are still on the chilly side. We're at 31 degrees, but it feels like temperature of 31. Wind's really not having a major impact on our feels-like conditions outside right now. And most of us are running, at least here in central Kentucky, in the low 30s. Got a couple mid-30s showing up down to our south and east, so a little bit better down there. Still tracking a little bit of moisture down to our south and maybe a little bit of a mix. Maybe you might run into a sleet pellet or 2 or maybe even a few flakes of snow, but not a big deal at all. Plenty of cloud cover also with us. What we'll look ahead to for you in the focus of the forecast is that Christmas snow outlook. We might have some flying around, maybe some on the ground. We'll take a closer look coming up for you in just a little bit.
All right, Jim, we'll see you in just a few, and thank you. And with Christmas only a week away now, many people will be flying home for the holidays, so now's a good time to remember what you can and can't take on your flight. Transportation Security Administration officials have noticed an uptick in the number of banned items coming to the checkpoints. WKYT's Whitney Wetzel is at Bluegrass Airport with reaction from TSA officials about the consequences of bringing those items with you. Whitney?
This year, TSA, both locally and nationally, has seen an increase in the number of firearms being brought to checkpoints, which is, of course, illegal. So far this year, 6 firearms have been brought to Bluegrass Airport security checkpoint. That's up 4 from last year. Nationally, there were about 1,800 of these instances in 2013. As of December 1st, it's already up to 2,000 this year. With more people flying over the next few weeks for the holidays, TSA is reminding travelers about what not to bring to the checkpoint. Pocket knives and guns are obvious big no-nos, but even these odd items like bricks, gasoline cans, and saw blades are sometimes found in carry-ons and are against protocol. Not only can packing these items get you in big trouble, it can also make an already hectic traveling season an even bigger headache.
When you're shutting a checkpoint down, especially at a smaller airport here where you may only have 2 or 3 lanes, that's going to cause a major delay. When it's something as small as a bottle of water or a pocket knife, it may not take as much time off, but when we have to go and look in the bag, it's going to slow things down for everybody else as well.
Now, in addition to penalties you may receive by local law enforcement, TSA can also impose a $7,500 civil penalty for anyone who brings a firearm to a checkpoint. In Lexington, Whitney Wetzel, WKYT.
All right, Whitney, thank you. And for an easy way to access a list of prohibited carry-on items, you can download the My TSA app in your app store.
A new 16-story mixed-use building has been proposed in Lexington. According to the Herald Leader, the building would include space for 200 apartments, along with stores and restaurants on the ground level. Now, here's a rendering of what it will look like. If approved, it would be built near the BCTC campus. The development would be called Thistle Station.